This summer, Team USA walked out onto the pitch in the same swoosh they've worn for the past 30 years. But look up onto the stands, and thousands of American fans are wearing something completely different. A denim blue Adidas jersey back from 1994, the last time the World Cup came to this country. Adidas didn't have to sponsor those fans. They just re-released the same shirt from 32 years ago and let nostalgia do the rest. That's the other game going on in this World Cup. Not the one on the ball, but the one on the spreadsheet. And which company's winning it? Honestly, that depends entirely on which numbers you decide to look at. 48 teams, 104 matches across 3 countries, and underneath all of it, 2 sportswear giants who walked into this tournament in a completely opposite shape. Nike showed up bruised. Right before this tournament, it closed out its fiscal year at $46.4 billion in revenue, flat on the year. Although flat is a little generous, over that year, exchange rates happened to move in Nike's favor, quietly padding the number. Take that currency boost away, and the real business actually shrank about 2%. On top of that, its stock had lost more than 40% from its high it hit the year before. But that flat number isn't telling the real story. The story is how Nike got here, and it's one of the most expensive mistakes in modern retail. A few years back, Nike bet its whole future on a planet called consumer direct acceleration. In plain English, just to cut out the middleman. Instead of selling most of its shoes through retailers like Foot Locker and Amazon, it would sell them straight to you through its own app, its own website, and its own in-person shops. On paper, it's genius. Skip out the wholesaler, keep the full margin, own all the customer data. So Nike started pulling its shoes off those shelves. And that's exactly where it fell apart, because those shelves weren't just where Nike sold shoes, they were where people found them. And the moment Nike disappeared from those places you'd actually browse, other brands strolled right into that empty space, like OnCloud, Hoka, and New Balance. And Nike's own shoes had gotten stale because of all the energy going into the apps instead of its product. The direct sales never grew fast enough to cover the wholesale Nike had walked away from. In the summer of 2024, Nike finally admitted revenue was about to drop, and its stock fell almost 20% in a single day, the worst day in the company's entire history. The next fiscal year, sales fell almost 10% from over $51 billion down to $46, Nike's worst drop outside of the pandemic. There were $2 billion in cost cuts along the way, so that flat $46 billion Nike just reported isn't a comeback. It's the bleeding stopping, at a level a fifth below where the company was just 2 years ago. The guy cleaning all this up is Elliott Hill. He started at Nike as a sales intern back in 1998, spent 30 plus years working his way up, retired at the top, got pulled back out of retirement to fix this. Now, Nike did report one genuinely great looking number, but I want to slow down on it because it's a bit misleading. It's gross margin. Basically, what's left out of every sales dollar after you pay to make the product. Jumped from about 40% to 49% in the final quarter, a leap that usually means the business has gone a lot healthier. Not this time. Almost all that jump came from one single thing, a $986 million refund on tariffs Nike had already paid. Pull that one payment back out and your margin was basically flat. Keep that in the back of your mind for the rest of this video. A great looking number and a genuinely healthy business are not always the same thing. Adidas walked in from a completely opposite direction, and it wasn't luck. It was the same lesson just learned earlier. Rewind 2 years and Adidas was in the middle of a crisis. It had just blown up its Yeezy deal with Kanye West, wiping out the most profitable product overnight, and it's posted its first annual loss in 30 years. Enter its new CEO with a dead simple mandate to get back to the sport, back to the product. 2 things that mattered most. First, he went back into wholesale, the exact stores Nike was abandoning, like retailers such as JD Sports and Foot Locker, came running back. Second, instead of leaning on one celebrity, Adidas started raiding its own archive. And that archive turned into the biggest sneaker trend of the decade, the Terrence look. Sambas, Gazelles, Spezials, old 70 football shoes that out of nowhere every teenager and every fashion editor suddenly had to have. And the best part, if you're Adidas, you barely have to advertise. Social media does it for free. And it rebuilt its running credibility in the most dramatic way imaginable. An Adidas shoe just carried the first sub 2 hour marathon ever ran in an official race, the exact barrier Nike spent years chasing with its own Breaking 2 project. Put it together and you got a record year, plus a first quarter of 2026 that beat every estimate, revenue up 14%, operating profits up 16%, direct sales up 22%, and the stock is almost up 9% in one day. Adidas smashed those estimates and then flat out refused to raise its guidance for the rest of the year. Two red flags explain that. There's about 400 million euros in tariffs and currency pain still coming. And the tariffs trend it's been riding is already cooling off, with the CEO himself out here openly hunting for the next Samba. Trend-led growth is a sugar high, and deep down Adidas knows it. Quick term to keep in mind for the rest of the video is currency neutral. Adidas earns in euros, but it sells all over the world. When the euro is strong, every dollar of foreign sales turns into fewer euros on its way home. So the reported number actually makes the business look worse than it did. Currency neutral just strips out the exchange rate out and asks, how did we really do? Adidas grew 14% currency neutral last quarter, but only 7% as reported. Same company, same 3 months, two different numbers. We're about to hold a dollar company and a euro company side by side for the whole video, so keep those rulers handy. So that's the tail of the tape walking in. One brand spent 2 years clawing out of a hole it dug itself in, and the other is still stuck in one. And both of them needed this World Cup to prove something. The most visible scoreboard is stitched right into the player's chest. Adidas kits out 14 national teams, Nike only 12, Puma less with 11. It's the biggest World Cup roster in 20 years. On straight head count, Adidas wins, but head count doesn't tell you how good those teams actually are. So let's measure that. The method's pretty simple. Take every team, each brand outfits, look up its FIFA World Rankings, and average them out. Do that, and Nike's teams average out around 17th in the world, Adidas around 30th. Nike dresses France, the number one team on the planet, plus England, Brazil, and the Netherlands. Now Adidas also has giants like Argentina, Spain, Germany, Mexico, Colombia. Right at the top, they're basically level, 4 top 10 teams each. The gap is all in the tail. Adidas 14th is padded out with lower ranked sides Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Scotland, and Curacao, the smallest country ever to reach a World Cup, an island of 150,000 people, ranking 82nd in the world. Nike's 12 have almost no filler, so Adidas wins on raw numbers while Nike wins on reach. Not the same thing, so which actually matters comes down to what you think a kit deal is even worth. Because here's the part that generally threw me when I started digging. The direct money in national team kits themselves is tiny. The whole pool of Federation apparel is worth roughly $500 million to $900 million a year per brand. That's pocket change next to Nike's $46 billion in revenue. And yet Nike just paid a reported 100 million euros a year to keep the French Federation through to 2034, and another reported $100 million a year for Team USA on top of it. For a slice of the business that barely shows up on the book, that only makes sense once you realize they're not buying the jersey sales at all. They're buying the brand equity, the value locked up in how billions of people feel about the logo. A World Cup plasters your 3 stripes or your swoosh on the most watched human being alive for a solid month, wrapped in national pride and childhood memories. That connection compounds for years. In the accounting statements, it's almost invisible, but in reality, it's the whole point. So when you see a $100 million deal for a product that barely moves revenue, that's not a sales decision. It's an investment from the past. And there's one seat at this table Nike has never held. Adidas is FIFA's official partner, and it makes a tournament ball this year, the Trianda. And its relationship goes back over 50 years. Inside a tournament, FIFA has turned into a multi-billion-dollar machine with record prize pots for the teams. But even a 50-year seat isn't safe forever, because the biggest story in the whole act isn't about 2026 at all. This is Germany's last World Cup in Adidas, after 72 years going all the way back to 1954 when West Germany won for the first time in Adidas boots. The German Federation is switching to Nike in 2027. For a company that was literally founded in the small Bavarian town, this isn't just a lost contract, it's losing a shirt its entire identity was built on, to the American rival on home soil. If brand equity is the prize, then Adidas is handing over a piece of its soul, and it tells you exactly how far Nike is willing to go when it wants something. Federation deals move slowly. Personal deals, they come with a clock. And one of the biggest in football history is ticking down live right now during this tournament, on the man wearing number 10 for France. Kylian Mbappe has worn Nike since he was 8 years old, 19 years, and that deal, a reported 14 million euros a year, runs out on July 31st, 12 days after the final. And going by just about every report out in France, he isn't expected to re-sign. The circling has already started. Adidas and Under Armour are both in, reportedly with offers unlike anything the sport has ever seen. And Adidas is holding the card most people miss. Since Mbappe plays for Real Madrid and Real Madrid is an Adidas club, sign him, and the most marketable footballer on earth is suddenly in your boots, in your shirt, in the same shot every single week. His teammate Rodrigo already made that exact jump, Nike to Adidas. Nike saw it coming too. Part of the reason it just locked up the French national team all the way to 2034 is basically insurance. Keep the shirt even if you lose the man inside of it, which is still worth sitting with for a second, because it forces the real question underneath all of this. Why is one athlete worth that kind of money in the first place? These mega deals aren't really paying for this season's boot sales. They're buying a signature line, a mini brand with an athlete's name plastered on it that keeps selling for decades, long after they retired. Just look at Michael Jordan. He last played in 2003. The Jordan brand still does billions in dollars in revenue each year. That's the model. Ronaldo reportedly signed a lifetime deal with Nike worth about $1 billion. Messi's lifetime deal with Adidas is reported near $25 million a year. Nike re-signed Haaland for a reported $20+ million. When a brand locks up a superstar at his peak, he isn't buying a World Cup. He's buying an annuity on his fame and betting it pays out for the next 30 years. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can see those signature lines laced up on the pitch right now. Ronaldo's playing in what's almost certainly his last World Cup, and a special all-gold Nike Mercurial Superfly that sells for $300. Haaland's got his own signature line now, the Phantom 6. And the best little irony of this tournament, Nike just gave Mbappe his first signature Mercurial line, welcoming him into a decades-long payout club, the exact summer his contract runs out. Messi, meanwhile, is in his Adidas F50 called El Último Tango, the Last Tango, a deliberate nod to the boot he wore in his very first World Cup back in 2006. And if you ever doubted that the money was worth it, that a legend really does compound in value, this tournament handed you the proof on 2 straight days. On June 22nd, Messi scored his 18th World Cup goal and became the all-time leading scorer in the tournament's history ever. The next day, Ronaldo became the first man ever to score at 6 different World Cups, 2 of the greatest careers the sport has ever produced, writing their final chapters 24 hours apart. And here's the bit that matters for us: Messi is Adidas, Ronaldo is Nike. Each brand didn't just sponsor a legend, it got to stamp its logo onto a piece of history in the same 48 hours. That, right there, is what these deals actually buy. Not the month's sales, but a permanent seat next to greatness. There's just one catch. Messi's 38, Ronaldo is 41. Whatever they're worth, that value is on the clock too. So the real fight was never about who owns the last generations of superstars. It's about who already got their hooks on the next ones. And that fight is already well underway. Look at who Adidas has quietly tied down. Jude Bellingham is only 22 and already setting on his own Adidas Predator range with his own personal logo. Pedri, Dembele, and the big one, Lamine Yamal, only 18 years old. The most fought-over teenager in the game, and reportedly picking the 3 stripes over Nike, a full signature Adidas athlete with his own F50 boot. But Adidas didn't just stop at the boot deal. It made an actual succession plan. Messi's personal line, Messi's Plus 10, is worn by exactly 10 hand-picked young players, and Yamal's the headline name. It's the same move Adidas pulled 20 years ago with a teenage Messi. Find the next generational talent, lock them down before your rival's even in the room. Nike's not standing still, to be clear. It's got Vinny Jr., who's only 25 in the Mercurial, plus Germany's Jamal Musiala and Brazil's teenage forward Estevao, and scrambling to keep Mbappe from walking out the door, but it's already lost Rodrigo, and if Mbappe goes too, Nike's face of the next generation is looking a little slim. And this is where other challengers sneak in. Brazil's Endrick, who's only 19, a Real Madrid forward, doesn't wear Nikes or Adidas. He signed with New Balance, the same New Balance has been quietly eating into Reading. Other young stars are also picking New Balance over the 3 stripes for the swoosh, including Bukayo Saka. The Giants don't own the future outright anymore. It all comes back to the spreadsheet in the end. A signature boot for Bellingham or Yamal runs about $280, but that was never the prize. The prize is the one Adidas already cashed once when it signed teenage Messi 20 years ago. Back to the right 19-year-old today. and you own a piece of the sports story for the next 15 years. This endorsement war isn't really being fought over this World Cup. It's being fought over the next 4. Off the pitch, the two brands place completely different bets on what football even is anymore. And this is where you get to watch their whole strategies smash into each other. Adidas swung first, with its backyard legends, Messi, Zidane, Beckham, next to Timothy Chalamet and Bad Bunny. Reportedly around £50 million, the ad aims to be cinematic, nostalgic, all about the sport. And it's a tell, the same Adidas that used to dump 2/3 of its marketing into digital, algorithm-chasing ads has swung hard back towards big, emotional, celebrity storytelling, the exact instinct that made the Samba explode. Nike fired back with the Rip the Script. 6 minutes of Ronaldo, Mbappe, and Haaland sharing a set with LeBron, Travis Scott, and Kim Kardashian. It's barely even a football ad. It's a bet that football is now just one room inside of a much bigger pop culture house, which fits Nike, a brand that spreads across every sport, not just this one. Now, working out who actually won the ad war is nearly impossible. Neither company will tell you what it spent or what it made back. And the honest, this ad brought back this many dollars figures doesn't exist. The attribution is just too messy. But there is one thing you can put a number on. It's called earned media value, an estimate of the dollar value of all the free buzz a campaign kicks up. The posts, the shares, the creators talking about it, who nobody paid. In the first 3 weeks, Adidas' campaign generated an estimated $49 million of that. Nike's only 29. Adidas didn't just pay for an ad, it got the whole internet to keep selling that ad for free. As for what all that noise actually is worth in sales, on average, celebrity campaigns nudges sales up a few percent, and a big World Cup push might add a bit more to that. Doesn't sound like much, but on the base of tens of billions of dollars, a few percent is real serious money, which is exactly why both brands treat this spend as an article of faith instead of a line item. And there's one more return here that never shows up on the sale at all. Being a FIFA's official partner doesn't just buy Adidas exposure, it denies it to Nike. Same way Coca-Cola's deal boxes Pepsi out of the official slot, Adidas being the partner means Nike simply cannot be the World Cup's official apparel brand at any price. Which brings us to the tournament itself. And this is where it gets fun, because the early numbers split right down the middle. With sell-through, Nike is crushing it. In the first 2 weeks, 28% of its US World Cup merch had already sold out. Adidas managed 7, and Nike jerseys go for around $125 against Adidas' $95. So Nike sold faster at a higher price quickly. Sell-through is just the share of the stock you put on the shelf that actually sells in a given window. High sell-through at high price is about the healthiest signal. It simply means that you read demand right and never had to slash prices to shift the product. It's the number that tells you whether hype actually turned into cash. But flip to growth, and now Adidas is crushing it. Its apparel revenue reportedly jumped 70% year over year in May, and foot traffic to US stores is nearly up 50% in the opening week. Analysts have tried to size up the whole prize. RBC pegged Nike's extra World Cup revenue at up to $1.3 billion, while Bloomberg's intelligence figured Adidas could book around $1.4 billion in tournament-linked sales, and Adidas had already banked roughly 250 million euros of World Cup orders in a single quarter. Even on the pitch, of the 528 players who started the tournament, Nike just edged the boot count, 232 to 218. Two brands, the same tournament, both winning, and it comes down to entirely which numbers you happen to be reading, which is the whole point of this video. Who's winning was never one question. We've seen this before though. At Qatar 2022, Adidas had a perfect setup. Official ball, sponsor of the champion, Messi lifting the trophy into 3 stripes. The stock railed hard afterwards. But zoom out. Over the 18 months after the final, Nike stock actually beat Adidas. The World Cup bump was real. It just wasn't what decided the next 2 years. Tournaments move sentiment. They don't move the fundamentals for long. And there's a third character here neither giant wants you watching. Puma's outfielding 11 federations, its biggest World Cup roster in over 2 decades. Keep in mind, there are more teams playing in this World Cup than usual, but it's doing it in the middle of a full-blown reset. After a brutal 2025 of layoffs and a change at the top, Puma is guiding to a full year loss. Back in January, China's ANTA bought nearly 30% of the company for €1.5 billion, becoming its single largest shareholder. So Puma's entire World Cup is really more of an audition or proof for the new Chinese owner that the brand can still command the biggest stage in sports. Analysts aren't betting it moves the numbers much. It's a subplot inside the subplot. Not who wins the World Cup, but who even survives to fight in the next one. And honestly, this is the part that should scare both Nike and Adidas. While they pour billions into fighting over football culture, OnCloud and Hoka have been quietly eating profits in performance running, the business that actually pays the bills. That's been posting growth north of 30% for quarters on end. Hoka clears $600 million in a single quarter. New Balance is a genuine lifestyle force now. None of them own a single World Cup jersey. None of them made 6-minute movies with Kim Kardashian in it. They just kept quiet, reporting clean, and grew their numbers in the sports the giants forgot about. The exact ground Nike gave up when it walked off those shelves. On July 19th, one nation lifts the actual World Cup. But the contest that kicked off this June doesn't end that day. Mbappe's clock runs out 12 days after the final. Germany's countdown to Nike has already started. Yamal is still only 18. Anta's bet on Puma won't settle for years. And this November, Nike faces its next reckoning, an investor day where Nike has to look Wall Street in the eye and show the comeback is real. The trophy gets decided on the pitch. The other one gets decided in earnings calls, in gross margin, in the fine print of tariff refunds, long after the confetti is already swept up. The real final was never the one at the ball, and right now, nobody's won it. I've been Esteban Reyes. Thanks for watching.